Seniors, avoid these 7 brain-destroying foods after 60 to avoid the nursing home. She used to be the one who remembered everything, birthdays, faces, even phone numbers without writing them down. But now, she repeats herself in the same conversation. She gets confused in her own kitchen. She struggles to find the word for toaster. And last week, she left the stove on overnight. Her family is scared. She's scared too. Not just of forgetting, but of where this is heading. The whispers about a nursing home have already begun. And though no one says it out loud, everyone's wondering, how did it get this bad, this fast? This isn't just one woman's story. It's the reality for millions of people over 60. Cognitive decline doesn't always start with a diagnosis. Sometimes it begins quietly, with a little forgetfulness here, a little confusion there. And too often, the damage is already happening years before anyone notices. But here's the thing. While genetics, age, and health conditions do play a role, so does something we overlook every single day: what we eat. Today, we're going to talk about 7 everyday foods that may be silently damaging your brain. These aren't rare, exotic ingredients. They're common, easy to reach, and for many, a regular part of breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But for older adults, especially those over 60, they may be doing more harm than you realize. The brain, like any other organ, is deeply affected by what you feed it. And certain foods don't just make you feel sluggish. They may accelerate memory loss, impair decision-making, and increase your risk of losing the independence you value most. Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. We love reading your comments. And yes, we read every single one. And while you're here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video that helps you take control of your health, your memory, and your future. Let's begin with the first food on the list, and one that many people over 60 are still eating without thinking twice. Food number 1, processed meats: ham, bacon, sausage, deli turkey, pepperoni. Processed meats are a staple in many kitchens. They're easy, flavorful, and comforting. But for aging brains, they may come with a hidden cost. What makes processed meats so dangerous isn't just the salt or fat. It's the chemical preservatives used to give them their long shelf life and signature taste. Chief among these are nitrates and nitrites. Nitrates are added to cured meats to preserve color, prevent bacteria, and enhance flavor. But once consumed, they can convert into compounds known as nitrosamines, substances that have been linked to both cancer and neurodegenerative diseases. In fact, some studies suggest that a high intake of nitrosamines may be associated with increased risk of cognitive decline, particularly in older adults. These compounds can trigger inflammation in the brain and interfere with the way your neurons communicate with each other. That's not all. Processed meats are also high in saturated fat, which has been shown to negatively impact memory and brain volume. Saturated fat contributes to the buildup of plaque in blood vessels, including those that feed the brain. Over time, this restricts blood flow, which means your brain gets less oxygen and fewer nutrients, both critical for memory, concentration, and decision-making. One long-term study published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that people who consumed the most processed meats had higher rates of cognitive decline compared to those who ate them rarely. This is deeper than your brain feeling a little foggy. This is about changes in the actual structure and function of your brain over time. You might be wondering, I've been eating deli meat for years. Isn't it too late to change now? The good news is, it's not. Reducing or eliminating processed meats can give your brain space to heal and protect itself from further damage. And you don't have to give up all meat, just the highly processed kinds. If you love turkey sandwiches, switch to fresh roasted turkey breast. Craving bacon? Look for nitrate-free versions and limit them to special occasions rather than everyday meals. It's also important to recognize that these foods often show up in disguise. Breakfast sandwiches from fast food chains, microwavable meatballs, frozen lasagna, and even some healthy meal kits often rely on heavily processed meats. If you're not checking labels for nitrates, sodium nitrite, or cured and smoked indicators, you might be eating more of them than you think. And for seniors, the risk is even greater. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to inflammation, and the blood-brain barrier, the protective shield around your brain, becomes less effective. That means more of these harmful compounds can reach your brain than when you were younger. So while a teenager might bounce back from a pepperoni pizza, someone over 60 could experience more lasting harm from the same meal. There's also a social side to processed meats. They're convenient, they feel nostalgic, and they're easy to prepare, especially for older adults living alone or with limited energy. But convenience comes with a cost. Every bite may be contributing to long-term damage, not just in your memory, but in your ability to function, communicate, and stay independent. Let's go over it again. Processed meats like bacon, ham, and deli slices contain nitrates, nitrites, and saturated fat, all of which may accelerate cognitive decline and increase the risk of brain inflammation, memory loss, and eventually, dependency on others. For now, take a look at your fridge. What's in there that might be working against your brain? Are there processed meats you reach for out of habit? Could you swap one of them for a fresh cooked alternative this week? Even one change can make a difference. Food number 2, refined sugar and sugary snacks. It's hard to ignore how much sugar is everywhere, on shelves, in restaurants, at home, and even in products that don't taste sweet. But for seniors, this overload of sugar may be doing more than expanding waistlines. It might be shrinking the brain. Refined sugar, especially the kind found in pastries, cookies, soft drinks, and sweetened cereals, has become a quiet but dangerous part of many people's diets. It doesn't just affect your energy levels. It alters how your brain functions over time. And once you cross the age of 60, the impact can become even more severe. When you eat foods high in sugar, your blood glucose spikes quickly. The body responds by flooding your system with insulin to lower the sugar level. This spike and crash pattern, repeated over months or years, creates real stress on the brain. Neurons don't respond well to roller coasters of sugar. In fact, over time, it can dull the brain's ability to process signals, form memories, and think clearly. One study from the journal Neurology found that people with higher blood sugar, even within the normal range, had smaller hippocampi, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. Shrinking of this region has been directly linked to early Alzheimer's symptoms. Researchers noted that even without diabetes, elevated sugar levels led to brain atrophy, meaning the brain was literally getting smaller. Another danger is the way sugar triggers inflammation. Chronic inflammation is one of the root causes of cognitive decline. When the brain becomes inflamed, it's harder for neurons to communicate. Think of it like trying to hear someone talk to you through a wall of static. Over time, that inflammation slows thinking, weakens recall, and clouds judgment. What makes refined sugar even more dangerous is how subtle its effects are. You might not notice anything after one cookie or slice of cake, but over time, the brain becomes less efficient. Words slip out of reach, you enter a room and forget why. Conversations take longer to follow. And eventually, these little lapses add up, eroding confidence, independence, and the ability to care for oneself. Sugar also affects mood, increasing the risk of depression and anxiety in older adults. That matters because mood disorders are tightly linked to cognitive health. A stressed, anxious brain is more vulnerable to memory problems. It's a cycle. Sugar affects the brain affects your mood, and the mood affects your motivation to make better choices. So what counts as refined sugar? It's more than just candy. It includes most boxed cereals, flavored yogurts, fruit juices, sodas, sweet teas, granola bars, even low-fat snacks. Sugar shows up under many names: high fructose corn syrup, cane sugar, maltodextrin, glucose, dextrose. The food industry has gotten clever at hiding it, and it adds up fast. A bowl of cereal in the morning, a sweetened tea at lunch, and a light dessert in the evening can easily lead to 40 to 50 grams of sugar or more in a single day. For older adults, that's more than enough to disrupt brain function, especially when repeated day after day. Cutting back on refined sugar doesn't mean living without sweetness. It means choosing smarter sources, like whole fruits, which contain fiber and antioxidants to balance the sugar they contain. Unsweetened Greek yogurt, cinnamon, and even a few pieces of dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher, can satisfy cravings without flooding your system. The most important part? Awareness. Many seniors don't realize how much sugar they're consuming because it's hidden in healthy foods. Reading labels and choosing whole, unprocessed ingredients can help break the cycle and give your brain a chance to recover. Let's do a little recap. Refined sugar quietly inflames the brain, shrinks memory centers, and may accelerate cognitive decline after 60, especially when consumed daily. Now let's look at something that's even more deceptive, because it doesn't taste sweet, look dangerous, or raise red flags. But it's in nearly every processed food on the market. We're talking about vegetable oils. Food number 3, vegetable oils. Vegetable oils like canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, and safflower oil have been marketed for decades as heart healthy. They're used in baked goods, salad dressings, margarine, packaged snacks, fried foods, and even low-fat frozen meals. But while they may be convenient and affordable, their effect on the brain tells a different story. These oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids. While omega-6 fats are essential in small amounts, the problem is imbalance. The modern diet is flooded with omega-6 fats and severely lacking in omega-3s, the type found in fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds, and chia. The ideal balance of omega-6 to omega-3 fats should be about 2 to 1. But today, many people are consuming a ratio closer to 15 or even 20 to 1. This imbalance causes the body to produce more inflammatory compounds. Over time, this state of chronic low-level inflammation can damage cells, including neurons, and interfere with brain signaling. Brain fog, forgetfulness, and slower thinking may all be symptoms of this imbalance. A 2020 study in Nature Communications found that high levels of omega-6 fats and low levels of omega-3s were associated with poorer performance on memory and executive function tasks in older adults. These functions are critical for independence, like remembering appointments, managing medications, and staying organized. When they slip, seniors become more dependent on others for everyday tasks. Beyond inflammation, many vegetable oils are processed at high heat and treated with solvents like hexane. These industrial methods strip the oils of natural antioxidants and can leave behind toxic residues. Additionally, the fats in these oils are unstable. When exposed to light, heat, or air, they oxidize quickly, creating free radicals that harm cells and accelerate aging, especially in the brain. And again, the damage builds slowly. No one feels foggy after a single fried item or a store-bought muffin. But when vegetable oils are part of every meal, especially fried foods, dressings, and baked goods, the damage compounds day after day. For people over 60, whose brains are more vulnerable to oxidative stress, this can mean faster mental fatigue, increased risk of dementia, and lower overall mental clarity. So what can you use instead? Natural fats that are less processed and more stable. Extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and even small amounts of coconut oil are healthier options for cooking. Butter and ghee, in moderation, are more stable at high heat than vegetable oils and may be easier for some seniors to digest. Whole food fats, like those from nuts, seeds, olives, and fatty fish, also help rebuild the balance between omega-6 and omega-3 fats. They support cell membranes, nourish neurons, and reduce the inflammatory burden on the brain. It's also helpful to reduce your intake of fried foods and packaged snacks. These are often made with the cheapest, most refined vegetable oils and can be replaced with home-cooked alternatives using better ingredients. Again, vegetable oils like canola, soybean, and corn are high in omega-6 fats that promote inflammation and may contribute to brain fog, memory decline, and long-term cognitive damage in older adults. White bread is soft, comforting, and easy to chew, which is why it's often the go-to choice for sandwiches, toast, or a quick bite. But for people over 60, that slice of bread may be doing more than just filling your stomach. It could be starving your brain. Food number 4, white bread and refined carbs. The issue with white bread and other refined carbohydrates is the way they flood your body with glucose too quickly. Refined carbs have been stripped of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. What's left is a simple starch that turns into sugar almost immediately after you eat it. That sudden sugar spike may satisfy hunger in the short term, but it triggers a chain reaction that can quietly damage the brain over time. When you eat white bread, crackers, pasta, pastries, or many packaged snack foods, your blood sugar surges. The body responds by releasing insulin to lower it. But just like with refined sugar, this roller coaster of spikes and crashes strains the brain. It leads to inflammation, slows blood flow, and may reduce the brain's ability to use glucose efficiently, a problem that becomes more dangerous with age. Your brain needs a steady, even supply of energy to function well. It's one of the hungriest organs in your body, using up more than 20% of your daily energy, even though it makes up only about 2% of your body weight. When the energy supply is erratic, neurons struggle to communicate. You may feel foggy, sluggish, or irritable, and over time, your memory and focus can suffer. More concerning is the impact refined carbs have on circulation, especially in the brain. Spiking blood sugar damages the delicate lining of blood vessels. That damage, when repeated over years, makes the vessels stiff and narrow. When blood flow to the brain is reduced, you get less oxygen and fewer nutrients delivered to your brain cells. That's like turning down the power in a factory and expecting it to run smoothly. Eventually, key systems slow down or fail. Several studies have linked high glycemic diets, those filled with white bread, white rice, and sugary cereals, to a greater risk of cognitive decline. One study from the Mayo Clinic showed that older adults who consumed the most refined carbs had nearly 4 times the risk of developing mild cognitive impairment compared to those who ate lower glycemic foods. That's a staggering number. White bread and refined carbs also tend to replace better foods in the diet. When your plate is filled with soft rolls, sweet muffins, or processed crackers, it leaves less room for fiber-rich whole grains, leafy greens, and healthy fats, foods that protect brain health and support long-term function. It's not just what refined carbs do, it's what they prevent you from getting. Now, this doesn't mean you can never have a sandwich again. The key is choosing smarter carbohydrates that digest more slowly and don't spike blood sugar. Whole grain bread, steel-cut oats, quinoa, barley, and even sweet potatoes are all examples of complex carbs that provide steady energy and beneficial nutrients. These options are higher in fiber, which slows down digestion and keeps your blood sugar more stable. For toast, switch to sprouted grain or oat bread. For pasta night, try whole wheat or lentil-based noodles. For a snack, reach for a piece of fruit with nuts instead of crackers or cookies. These swaps don't require more effort, just a bit more awareness. Let's go over it again. White bread and refined carbs spike blood sugar, reduce circulation to the brain, and may increase the risk of memory loss and cognitive decline as you age. Food number 5, artificial sweeteners. Now let's talk about something that's often marketed as a better choice, but may be doing quiet damage to your brain. We're talking about artificial sweeteners, found in diet sodas, sugar-free snacks, and even some vitamins. Artificial sweeteners are used to cut calories and avoid sugar. But their effects on the brain are raising serious concerns, especially for seniors. Common artificial sweeteners include aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, and acesulfame potassium. They're often labeled as low-calorie, diet, or sugar-free. The appeal is clear. Get the sweet taste without the sugar or calories. But the brain doesn't see it that way. When you consume artificial sweeteners, your brain detects sweetness, but doesn't receive the expected energy. This mismatch can confuse the brain's reward system and may lead to cravings, irritability, and even altered brain chemistry over time. Your brain starts to unlearn how to respond properly to natural hunger and satiety cues, and this disruption can affect memory, mood, and decision-making. Aspartame in particular has come under scrutiny. Some studies have suggested it may be linked to memory issues, headaches, and even increased anxiety in older adults. While more research is needed to fully understand all the effects, what we do know is that artificial sweeteners interact with the brain in ways that are far from neutral. There's also the issue of the gut-brain connection. The human gut is home to trillions of bacteria that play a major role in digestion, immunity, and brain health. Artificial sweeteners can alter the gut microbiome, disrupting the balance of healthy bacteria. An imbalanced gut can increase inflammation throughout the body, including in the brain, where it may contribute to brain fog and mood disorders. And for seniors, this disruption can be more severe. With age, the gut lining becomes more delicate, and the immune system less responsive. That means the same sweetener that causes a mild reaction in a younger person may lead to bigger issues in someone over 60. It's also worth noting that artificial sweeteners are often used in ultra-processed foods. These items are not just low in nutrition, they also crowd out healthier options. When your diet is filled with diet sodas, sugar-free yogurts, and light desserts, you're often missing out on real, nourishing foods that protect the brain. So, what can you do instead? If you need a bit of sweetness, try natural alternatives like stevia or monk fruit in small amounts. Even better, retrain your palate to enjoy the subtle sweetness in whole foods like berries, apples, and cinnamon. Over time, your taste buds adjust, and you'll find that overly sweet products become less appealing. You don't need to avoid all sweetness forever, but cutting back on artificial versions helps your brain reconnect with real signals. And that makes it easier to stay sharp, balanced, and in control of your decisions. Let's go over it again. Artificial sweeteners can disrupt brain chemistry, damage gut health, and may contribute to memory loss and mood issues, especially in older adults. Food number 6, fried foods. There's no denying it. Fried foods are delicious. They're golden, crispy, comforting, and often tied to favorite memories. Whether it's fried chicken, French fries, onion rings, or fish from the corner shop, these foods are nostalgic. But for adults over 60, they can be one of the most damaging things you put on your plate, especially when it comes to brain health. Fried foods are usually cooked in highly refined vegetable oils, canola, soybean, corn, or sunflower oil. These oils, as we've discussed, are already problematic due to their high omega-6 content and tendency to oxidize. But frying them at high heat takes it one step further. When these oils are repeatedly heated, especially in commercial fryers or in the home when reused, they break down and form oxidative compounds. These compounds create stress in the body called oxidative stress, which damages cells, including brain cells. Oxidative stress doesn't just cause temporary fogginess or tiredness. It plays a major role in aging, memory loss, and the development of degenerative diseases. Think of it like rust forming on metal. Over time, that rust eats away at structure and strength. The same thing happens in your brain when oxidative stress builds up. It slowly erodes mental clarity, memory retention, and processing speed. Fried foods are also typically coated in refined carbohydrates, white flour batters, or breadcrumbs, which spike blood sugar and compound the damage. So not only are you introducing harmful compounds from the oil, but you're also flooding your system with sugars that strain the brain's ability to function efficiently. Then there's the issue of trans fats. Although many food manufacturers claim to have removed trans fats from their products, some fried foods still contain trace amounts, especially when cooked in older oil or partially hydrogenated fat. Trans fats are especially harmful to the brain. They've been linked to reduced brain volume, slower cognitive processing, and increased risk of dementia. In one study published in Neurology, researchers found that people with the highest levels of trans fats in their blood had a significantly higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. These fats were commonly found in fried fast foods, packaged baked goods, and margarine. Yet another reason to be cautious about what's going into your food. Beyond the direct chemical damage, fried foods contribute to clogged blood vessels, which restrict circulation to the brain. A healthy brain needs consistent, unimpeded blood flow to function. The more clogged or stiff your arteries become, the harder it is for oxygen and nutrients to reach your neurons. That's when memory starts to slip, focus weakens, and simple tasks become harder to manage. This isn't just about a plate of fries. It's about the effect of repeated, long-term exposure to harmful fats and cooking methods. Many seniors grew up in a time when frying was the go-to method of cooking. No one thought much about what the oils were doing behind the scenes. And it's easy to fall into habits that feel familiar and comforting. But the brain doesn't care about nostalgia. It reacts to what it receives. And when it receives fried food over and over, it begins to show signs of stress. Of course, you don't have to give up every fried food for life. But being mindful of how often they're showing up in your meals and how they're prepared can make a major difference. If you do crave something crispy, consider using an air fryer with avocado oil or baking your food instead of deep frying it. You'll still get that satisfying texture without exposing yourself to the toxic byproducts of overheating oil. It's also worth being cautious when eating out. Fried foods at restaurants are often cooked in reused oil that's been heated dozens of times, sometimes even for days, especially in fast food kitchens. That means more oxidative compounds, more trans fats, and more inflammation in your body and brain. Better alternatives include roasted vegetables, grilled proteins, baked potato wedges, or homemade oven-crisped items using healthier oils like olive oil. These still deliver satisfaction, but with fewer risks. Let's go over it again. Fried foods expose your brain to oxidative stress, harmful fats, and blood vessel damage, all of which may slow thinking, impair memory, and increase your risk of cognitive decline after 60. Now let's pause for a moment, not just to absorb the information, but to reflect. At this point, you've seen how food doesn't just affect the number on the scale. It doesn't just affect your energy levels or your digestion. It reaches deeper. It shapes the way your brain ages. It influences how well you remember names, how clearly you can make decisions, how confidently you can live on your own. It determines whether you wake up feeling alert or foggy, whether you can follow a conversation or lose your place halfway through, whether you feel mentally sharp or like your thoughts are slipping through your fingers. That's what's really at stake here. Not just health, but independence. Because when the brain starts to decline, life starts to shrink. You begin forgetting appointments. You lose interest in reading or learning. You rely on others for help. And before long, someone might suggest you stop driving, or consider assisted living, or start looking at nursing home options. And the painful part? Sometimes this spiral doesn't begin with a diagnosis. It begins at the dinner table. But this isn't about guilt or blame. Many of these foods became part of your life without you even realizing the long-term effects. You were told vegetable oils were heart healthy. You were told diet soda was better than regular. You were told that as long as you stayed away from too much salt or fat, you were doing fine. The truth is just now catching up. And now that you know it, you can act on it. So here's a question worth asking. Do you eat any of these foods regularly? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. Most people over 60 do. These foods are convenient, familiar, affordable, and everywhere. They show up in restaurants, in frozen meals, in hospital cafeterias. They're marketed as easy, tasty, and sometimes even healthy. And they don't cause instant harm. That's why they're so easy to ignore. But every brain has its limits, and every choice adds up. Here's the good news. It's not too late. The brain has an incredible ability to recover, rebuild, and adapt, even in later years. Reducing these foods now, bit by bit, can improve memory, stabilize mood, and even sharpen your focus in just a few weeks. You don't need a perfect diet. You just need awareness, consistency, and a willingness to change course. So take a moment. Think about what you've eaten this week. Think about what's in your freezer, in your pantry, or what's become your go-to snack. Is it helping your brain or hurting it? If it's hurting, it's time to take it off the menu. You owe it to yourself, to your loved ones, and to the life you still have ahead of you. Let's go over it again. Fried foods may feel comforting in the moment, but their long-term effect on the brain includes oxidative damage, poor circulation, and increased risk of memory decline, especially after 60. Food number 7, alcohol in excess. A glass of wine with dinner, a cocktail at a celebration, a cold beer on a warm evening. For many people, alcohol is part of life, something enjoyed in moderation, often linked to relaxing moments and social connection. But when it becomes a regular part of the day, or when just one glass turns into 2 or 3, it can quietly begin to harm the brain. And after age 60, the risks of alcohol increase dramatically, especially when it comes to memory, cognitive health, and independence. Alcohol affects the brain from the very first sip. It changes how neurons communicate, slows reaction time, and alters mood. These short-term effects are well known, but what fewer people realize is that chronic alcohol consumption, even in amounts considered moderate, can shrink brain volume over time. As we age, the brain naturally undergoes changes. Certain areas, like the hippocampus, which controls memory and learning, begin to lose volume. It's a slow, natural process, but alcohol accelerates this shrinkage. Imaging studies have shown that people who drink regularly have smaller brain volumes than non-drinkers, even when controlling for age, sex, and other health conditions. In fact, researchers have found that even 1 to 2 drinks a day can lead to measurable reductions in brain size. Why does this matter? Because brain volume is directly linked to cognitive ability. When areas responsible for memory, balance, coordination, and problem-solving begin to shrink, those functions decline. You might notice it as forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, or feeling off balance. And the older you are, the more sensitive your brain becomes to the damaging effects of alcohol. Alcohol also affects the white matter of the brain. White matter acts like a communication highway. It allows different parts of the brain to send signals to one another. When alcohol damages these pathways, it's like creating roadblocks in your brain's internal traffic. Thoughts slow down. Reactions lag. Decision-making becomes harder. And this isn't just about what happens during a buzz or hangover. This is long-term impairment that builds with continued use. Another major issue is how alcohol affects sleep. Many people believe a nightcap helps them relax and fall asleep faster. But alcohol actually disrupts the most important stages of sleep, particularly REM sleep, which is when the brain processes and stores memories. If you're drinking at night, you may fall asleep quickly, but you're far more likely to wake up tired, foggy, and mentally sluggish the next day. There's also the matter of how alcohol interacts with medications. Many seniors take prescriptions for blood pressure, cholesterol, arthritis, or mood. Alcohol can intensify side effects, interfere with how drugs work, and increase the risk of falls, confusion, or even hospitalization. And finally, alcohol is inflammatory. It can increase levels of inflammation in the brain and body, especially when consumed regularly. As we've discussed before, inflammation plays a major role in cognitive decline. An inflamed brain is a slower brain. It struggles with memory, clarity, and emotional balance. It's important to clarify that not everyone who drinks occasionally is at risk. The danger comes from frequency, quantity, and how your body handles it over time. Many older adults find that the same amount of alcohol that felt fine at 40 now feels overwhelming at 65. That's because the liver processes alcohol more slowly with age, and the brain becomes more vulnerable to its effects. If you do drink, moderation is key. The National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism recommends that adults over 65 limit themselves to no more than one standard drink per day, and ideally not every day. A standard drink means 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, or 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits, not a full glass or a double pour. Tracking actual portions can be eye-opening. Some people find it helpful to swap their evening drink for something soothing but non-alcoholic, like herbal tea, sparkling water with lemon, or a warm turmeric drink. These support relaxation without taxing your brain. Others enjoy alcohol-free wines or mocktails, which can provide the ritual of a drink without the after effects. The most powerful change, however, is awareness. Just being mindful of how often and how much you drink gives you the power to protect your brain. For many, reducing alcohol even slightly leads to better sleep, clearer thinking, improved mood, and greater energy during the day. Let's go over it again. Alcohol, especially in excess, can shrink brain volume, disrupt memory, damage communication pathways, and increase the risk of long-term cognitive decline in older adults. Now that you know what to avoid, here's how to eat smarter. We've spent time uncovering the foods that quietly harm the brain: processed meats, refined sugars, inflammatory oils, artificial sweeteners, fried foods, refined carbs, and alcohol. And while that information is crucial, it's only one side of the story. The other side, the one filled with hope, is knowing that food can also heal. What you put on your plate can support your memory, improve clarity, boost energy, and help you maintain your independence well into your later years. Many seniors are told that memory loss is just part of aging. But science now shows us that's not the full picture. Yes, changes do happen with age, but you have far more influence than you've been led to believe. And one of the biggest factors in that influence is food. Certain foods help reduce inflammation, protect neurons, and encourage blood flow to the brain. Others deliver powerful antioxidants that fight oxidative stress, and some provide critical building blocks for neurotransmitters, those tiny messengers that carry thoughts, store memories, and support mood. For example, plant-based fats like those found in avocados, nuts, seeds, and extra virgin olive oil are rich in omega-3s and monounsaturated fats. These fats nourish brain cells, support communication between neurons, and reduce the kind of inflammation linked to cognitive decline. Unlike trans fats or refined oils, these fats actually strengthen your brain structure and performance. Berries are another brain-loving food. They're packed with antioxidants, especially flavonoids, that have been shown to improve memory and delay brain aging. Studies have found that older adults who eat more blueberries and strawberries perform better on memory tests and experience slower cognitive decline over time. Then there are leafy greens like spinach, kale, and Swiss chard. These are loaded with folate, vitamin K, and other nutrients that support brain health. One study found that people who ate 1 to 2 servings of leafy greens a day had brains that functioned as if they were 11 years younger compared to those who rarely ate them. These are just a few examples. The full list of brain-supporting foods is rich, colorful, and satisfying. It's not about restriction. It's about upgrading what you eat to better serve your mind and your future. Small changes make a big difference. Swapping white bread for whole grains, choosing olive oil instead of vegetable oil, adding a handful of walnuts to your morning oatmeal, replacing soda with water and berries. Each change is a step toward protecting your memory, improving your mood, and keeping your independence longer. You don't need to transform everything overnight. Start with one swap this week, then another next week. Before long, your habits change, your energy improves, and your brain feels clearer. It's not magic. It's food. Let's go over it again. Cutting back on alcohol and adding nourishing foods like plant-based fats, berries, and leafy greens can help restore brain function, improve memory, and support sharper thinking after 60. Of all the health concerns that come with aging, losing your memory may be the most frightening. It's not just forgetting names or misplacing keys. It's the fear of losing yourself. The ability to manage your daily life, make decisions, recognize loved ones, and stay independent begins and ends in the brain. And while aging does bring natural changes, the truth is that what you eat plays a far bigger role than most people realize. We've now looked closely at 7 everyday foods that may be quietly damaging the brain, especially after age 60. These aren't rare ingredients or risky trends. They're common, convenient items that may already be sitting in your fridge or pantry. But with consistent exposure, they may be speeding up brain aging, memory loss, and cognitive decline. Let's walk through them once more, not to overwhelm, but to reinforce what you now know. Processed meats were first. Deli slices, bacon, sausage, and hot dogs may be tasty and convenient, but they're filled with nitrates, nitrites, and saturated fat. These compounds create inflammation in the brain and may disrupt healthy blood flow, both of which contribute to memory problems and reduced cognitive function. Even moderate, regular intake over time has been linked to increased risk of dementia and mental decline. Refined sugar and sugary snacks came next, whether in soda, pastries, sweetened cereals, or flavored yogurts. Refined sugar floods the bloodstream and overworks the brain's insulin response. Repeated sugar spikes not only damage neurons but also shrink the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. Over time, even low to moderate sugar intake can dull your thinking, reduce recall, and increase your risk of cognitive issues. Then we looked at vegetable oils, including canola, soybean, corn, and sunflower oils. These oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which promote inflammation when consumed in excess and out of balance with omega-3s. The result? Slower thinking, brain fog, and higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. The brain thrives on healthy fats, not chemically refined ones that oxidize easily and damage cell membranes. White bread and refined carbs came next. Soft rolls, crackers, sugary cereals, and white pasta may feel gentle on the stomach, but they cause sharp spikes in blood sugar, reduce brain circulation, and deliver almost no nutritional value. High glycemic diets have been directly linked to increased risk of cognitive impairment, especially in seniors who rely on these foods regularly. After that, we talked about artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin, commonly found in diet sodas and sugar-free products. While marketed as healthier alternatives, these sweeteners may disrupt gut health, interfere with brain signaling, and contribute to mood disorders, anxiety, and memory trouble. The brain is highly sensitive to these chemical imposters, and the gut-brain axis plays a bigger role in cognition than most people realize. Then came fried foods, which are especially dangerous due to their oxidative load. Foods deep-fried in reused vegetable oils produce free radicals that damage brain cells and reduce blood flow. Fried food consumption has been linked to poorer memory, slower processing, and even brain shrinkage. This damage builds over time, especially when these foods are part of a daily or weekly routine. And finally, alcohol in excess. While moderate drinking is often seen as harmless or even healthy, research tells us that regular alcohol use shrinks brain volume, disrupts communication between neurons, and increases the risk of memory loss. Alcohol also disturbs sleep, interacts with medication, and promotes inflammation, all of which affect the aging brain far more than most people realize. Now, let's take a breath. This is about clarity. It's about understanding how the foods we eat every day are either helping or hurting our ability to stay mentally sharp. And the best news? You don't have to give everything up. You don't need a perfect diet. What you need is awareness, so you know what's hurting you, what's worth cutting back on, and what swaps make the most sense for your life. For example, maybe you love deli meat sandwiches. Could you roast fresh turkey breast at home instead? If you enjoy something sweet after dinner, could you try a small bowl of fresh berries instead of a cookie? If you usually use vegetable oil to fry eggs, could you switch to extra virgin olive oil instead? These aren't huge changes, but they matter. Every swap is a step toward better brain function. Every smarter choice supports memory, mood, and independence. And the beautiful part? Your brain responds quickly. Many people notice improved clarity, better focus, and deeper sleep within just a few weeks of adjusting their diet. It's also not all or nothing. Maybe you cut back on fried foods during the week and enjoy a treat on Sunday. Maybe you replace your evening glass of wine with tea a few nights a week. The goal is progress, not perfection. Your brain doesn't need a complete overhaul. It just needs support. This is also a powerful moment to reflect. Which one of these foods surprised you the most? Was it something you've always thought was harmless? Was it something you eat often without giving it much thought? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what changes you're thinking about making and where you're watching from. Yes, we read every single message, and they help us create content that truly supports you. And if this video helped open your eyes to something new, don't forget to tap that subscribe button. Our channel is here for you with simple, clear, senior-friendly advice you can use right away. We're not about fad diets or confusing science. We're here to empower you with information that keeps you strong, independent, and confident about your future. Now, here's something exciting. Do you want to know which foods protect your brain? The ones that sharpen memory, boost focus, and help delay brain aging. That's what we're covering in our very next video. Think of it as the flip side of what you just learned. A positive list of foods you can start enjoying more often, knowing they're giving your brain the support it needs. Because your brain isn't just reacting to the past, it's also responding to what you do next. And what you choose to eat next could be the first step in a brighter, sharper, more independent future. Let's go over it again. These 7 foods may look innocent, but over time, they can shrink brain volume, increase inflammation, and reduce mental clarity. Knowing them is the first step. Replacing them is the next. And the power to do that is already in your hands.